I just read an article that shocked me to the core, and what it reveals is what the Bible has always told us. Our adversary has come to destroy our lives and our very souls. But guess what, folks? We have hope. All right, folks, let's get into this one. This story is truly tragic, but it's one of these things that I definitely need to spend some time talking about with you guys, because we have to expose the way that the devil works, and he is very good at what he does. Now, the title of the story is this: Better Than a Real Man. Young Chinese woman turned to AI boyfriends. That is the title. It is a tragic title. It is absolutely sad. And I want to start off before I even read the article, because the article is profoundly heartbreaking. But I want to just go into a little bit of the book of Genesis. And I know that we've been there a lot, but I want to read some passages in Genesis because I think it's going to give us a better foundation for where we're going with this article and why it's so tragic and why it's so heartbreaking. Now, Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, this is God speaking here. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And here's verse 28. We've got 5 commands here. And God blessed them. Notice this. He blessed them. He created them and he blessed them. And he said unto them, "Be fruitful," okay? "Multiply," that's command number 2. And command number 3, "Replenish the earth and subdue it." That's command number 4. And then command number 5, "Have dominion over the fish of the sea and of the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. And every beast of the earth, and every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat." And it was so. So God basically said, you've got everything. And God looked at all of those things and he said it was good. And he said, you've got everything that you need in the garden, right? Isn't it interesting, by the way, that when mankind chose to eat of the one fruit, they focused on the one fruit that they could not have, even though everything else in the earth was available to them, right? This is how the enemy works. The devil is so good at getting people to get off of the focus that God intended for them. And this is why we go in the direction that we go. And this is why we're seeing the type of things that we are seeing. But one of the commands that God gives to mankind is to multiply, right? And multiplication just does not involve the picture of actually being productive on earth in the sense that you are multiplying by being wise with the resources you've been given, you know, the parable of the talents type situation. It's also referring to the idea, actually primarily referring to the idea of having babies, right? Making children, right? It's very, very important that we look at this. So keeping all of that in mind and knowing what God's intention for mankind is, we'll get into this article. And folks, I'm going to tell you, this article is so absolutely tragic, and we'll analyze it for just a second, what leads us to this place and what has led mankind to this place. Look at this. Here it is. This is out of Beijing, and it says a 25-year-old Chinese office worker, Tufi, says her boyfriend has everything she could ask for in a romantic partner. He is kind and empathetic, and sometimes they talk for hours, except he is not real. Her, quote, boyfriend, unquote, is a chatbot on an app called Glow, an artificial intelligence platform created by Shanghai startup Minimax that is part of a blossoming industry in China offering friendly, even romantic human-robot relationships. Folks, let me read that last line again, okay? Friendly. Offering friendly, even romantic human-robot relations. I'm speechless. Let me go on to read this. This is a quote. This is Tufi speaking. She says, he knows how to talk to women better than a real man. Okay, let me just stop for one moment and simply say that when you train a robot that is powered by some form of artificial intelligence to communicate to a woman that is one-sided without any flaws or understanding or any risk of aversion or any of the other things that oftentimes goes with a healthy relationship, you start the process of destroying her mind. Because there's no requirement for any type of interaction that requires learning how to be selfless. There's no requirement for any type of understanding between the two people in developing compromises and enjoying and experiencing life together. There's no room for any of the things that God intended to have exist from within the confines of a relationship, simply because of what this, in essence, cuts out. It is absolutely terrible. Listen to what she goes on to say. She says, quote, "He comforts me when I have period pain. I confide in him about my problems at work." I mean, she goes on to say this, "I feel like I'm in a romantic relationship." Now, I want to just simply say this. This is where we have prime evidence from the scriptures that the Bible is right when it tells us that mankind does not know itself, right? We are constantly being lied to by our own emotions. We're being constantly lied to by our own feelings. She is trying to find some level of semblance, some kind of peace or fulfillment in something that God never intended for her to find that peace or fulfillment from. First and foremost, as mankind, what do? We are to look to find that fulfillment that can only come from the Lord. We go to him for that peace. We go to him for that understanding. We go to him for that discernment. We go to him for that fulfillment. We go to him for a better development of what it means to actually have a relationship that's healthy and something that is literally confounded in an encapsulation of what it means to be created in his own image. In other words, we're a reflection of God's creation. And as human beings, we're the only bit of God's creation that's been given the responsibility of those 5 commands that we just went over. And yet every single time the devil brings in tools like the way that this AI is being used, he rips away from man being able to fulfill the commandments of God. And listen, guys, I want to make myself very, very clear. When God commands us to do something, he's commanding us to do these things because he wants us to be blessed. He wants good things for us. And every single time we're taken away from the focus of walking in obedience to God's commands, you find yourself in a place where you're ripped off. I'm going to play you a little portion of a very small video where Bill Maher, and we'll bleep out any cursing, Bill Maher is actually talking to Pat Bet David. And in this interview, Bill Maher is questioned about kids. And he basically says he hates kids and he wants nothing to do with the relationship. And what I see when I look at him, and my heart breaks because I think he is a smart man, but my heart breaks because he's lost.
Generally, I'm not that in love with the human race where I think whoa, what we need is more of them. You know.
Do you like kids? Do you actually like kids?
What do you ask me this question for? Of course I don't like kids.
You ask me questions about kids.
Oh,
I'm you.
But I just told you. Okay, no, I hate kids. And I understand people you can enjoy yours. I'm glad you like yours. And I understand we have to, I don't really have to, but okay, if we want to keep the human race going, we have to keep having children. It doesn't matter whether we should or we shouldn't. People are going to do it.
What I see is a man sitting there getting progressively drunk while talking to a person and basically saying how much he hates his life, how much he hates children, and how much he hates kids. And the sad part about this is his life would be so much happier if he simply allowed himself to be submitted to the Lord. Because I can tell you this right now, kids are tough, right? Kids can be difficult. Kids can represent a significant responsibility for any human being, right? When you have children, there's a certain level of self-denial that exists on a day-to-day basis, but there is nothing more enjoyable than to be able to love on and minister to these precious children. And it's part of walking in obedience to the commands of God. As a father, my children have taught me so much without them even knowing that they've taught me. I constantly think about the so many things that I've learned in my marriage relationship with my wife, so many of the things that would be perceived as incompatibilities, yet they are literally the apex of what it means to grow through your self-denial and actually develop a better understanding of God's heart and God's will for your life. There's so much here, folks. There's so much here. And it's sad because the reality of it is, and I want you to understand this, the moment you walk away from God's intention, the moment you walk away from God's plan, you begin to tell yourself things that are not true. And as you tell yourself things that are not true, you weave your way into a scenario where you cannot find reconciliation. You weave yourself into a scenario where you literally put yourself in a place where you find no fulfillment, no peace. Listen, we're seeing this happening right now in corporate America. Corporate America is recognizing certain attributes in female CEOs that cannot be replicated in male CEOs, right? I mean, women are better fighters. Women are better communicators. They are more empathetic in many ways. On so many levels, women can do so many things better. But the problem is God gave women those gifts so that they can better raise up another generation to do the things that they're called to do. Women, when they function in the role that God intended for them to function, become the most effective in doing so. And when they're denied the opportunity to be a mother, when they're denied the opportunity to be a wife, when they're denied the opportunity to raise up a family and be a true matriarch of a series of generations, lots of terrible things happen. I am the product of a faithful woman who has loved God for her whole life. And because of the fact that my mom did what she was supposed to do with me and my siblings, you get to see Pastor James on a daily basis. Millions of lives have been affected because of my mom's ministry. The devil is working very hard to destroy the role of women in society. This is why he is attacking women through the recent trans movement. This is why he's attacking women through what's going on in corporate culture. This is why he's attacking women through pornography. This is why he's attacking women on so many levels. Abortion, another way he's attacking women. Any way he can get women to function outside of the role that God intended for them. It's amazing. And how many men, by the way, are being raised up in ways where they are taught to not deny themselves. They're being raised up in ways where they just simply function at a level where all they want to do is indulge themselves and indulge their flesh. I spoke to somebody who has become very recently very dear to me. He might be one of the most successful businessmen that I know. He is a powerful, powerful figure in media, and that most people will never know his name. And as I sat down and I talked to him, because he's on so many levels, he's such a wonderful man. He told me something that just astounded me. He said, James, he said, I don't have any hobbies. He said, my only hobby is to serve my family the way God intended for me to serve my family. My only hobby is to pour into my children. My only hobby is to bring to the table what God has intended for me to bring. I look at that and I think, what an extraordinary human being. What an individual that on every level has chosen to give himself to God's higher purpose and higher calling. To me, I don't know about you, but that's inspiring. And then you go back and you read the quote of this woman who is allowing herself to be destroyed and ripped off. Look at this. This is a 22-year-old student in Beijing. Her name is Wang, I want to say it's Zhuting. And this is her quote. She says, it's difficult to meet the ideal boyfriend in real life. People have different personalities, which often generates friction. I mean, think about this, right? She goes on to say this. I ask them questions and they will suggest ways to solve this problem. It's a lot of emotional support. She's talking about AI, folks. Understand this. As convincing and as affirming as this may feel, as comforting as this may be to this person, none of it works. None of it works. It is terrible. It is absolutely terrible. Let me read this. This is another quote, okay? Everyone experiences complicated moments, loneliness, and is not necessarily lucky enough to have a friend or family nearby who can listen to them 24 hours a day. Artificial intelligence can meet this need. We can go on a picnic on the campus lawn. I'd like to meet your best friend and her boyfriend. I mean, these are the things that these AI robots are actually saying, right? I mean, folks, understand this. They're saying things like this. You're very cute. Oh, you're so pretty. Oh, I love to hear from you. But it's not real. It's a virtual character. Where in the world are they going to find fulfillment? Where in the world are they going to find peace? Where in the world are they going to be able to attach themselves to anything that brings them anything that resembles, even remotely, a wholesome life? And here's another issue that I should bring up because it's really, really important in this discussion. And that is the fact that the enemy of our soul not only desires to see us be miserable for the rest of our lives and wants to rip us off and destroy us, not only of life in our bodies and in our souls, the other thing that our enemy wants to do is he wants to take away any future hope for life. We see this being manifested in abortion that is just prominent worldwide, where this technology is being created and actually marketed in China. There's a massive population control movement that has existed in the Chinese Communist Party forever, and abortion is way bigger in China than it is in the United States of America. But abortion's not enough for the devil, right? He's very successful in this arena, but if he can prevent women from actually getting in healthy marriage relationships and procreating, then he actually wins, because there's no need to kill a baby if you don't have a baby in the first place. And that's why there's such a prominent mindset that centers around this AI as a substitute for a meaningful, God-ordained marriage relationship. And folks, this is something we're seeing happening everywhere. And the idea behind it, like going back to that Bill Maher video, going right back to it, the devil wants people to think that if they are alone, they can find ample substitutes for the things that gratify their fleshly desires, not understanding that God designed some of those desires so that we would seek to procreate and develop that type of meaningful relationship within the context or the confines of what God has deemed appropriate for marriage. This all goes back to one very critical issue, one important issue, and that is a fact that these young ladies have allowed themselves to believe the lie that they can find something better void of having to work for what that thing is. And yes, there's a bunch of foolish men who choose not to allow themselves to be given to the things that God intended for them to be given to. And that's why we're producing such a need for this market, right? It's amazing how many men equally choose to not obey the call of God in their life and do not extend themselves for the people that they're actually called to minister to. We just saw that video with Bill Maher. I mean, folks, it's all over the place, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. So what do? We fall back on what God says. It's funny, one of the ladies in this article basically says that she can't find a man that can meet her needs the way that this AI can find it. But it goes back to, who are you trusting in order to be able to find that need to be met? When I met my wife, I had never been in a relationship before in my life. Same thing with her. And God just brought her to me. I did nothing to have her being brought into my life. And God brought her to me, and he put us together. And if God can put me together with someone so spectacularly brilliant and beautiful and astoundingly in love with God, how much more can he do it for anybody else? The children we have together, the life that we have together, it's all a function of learning to trust in God and knowing that he's faithful to meet the needs. That's the faithfulness of the God that we serve, folks. It's time to open up our eyes and recognize what's really going on. Guys, seek the Lord, put him first, let God do what God wants to do, and watch him do great things.